Hey, Tanya.
Hi, how are
All
you?
right. Hey, so welcome back, everybody. We just had an awesome interview with Curtis May, and we got to dig a little bit deep into what he does with his financial coaching clients and got to pick his brain. And it was very
Yeah,
interesting. So, what are your thoughts there, Tanya?
it was good. I mean, he spoke a lot to, he doesn't tell people what to do. He wants you to be educated and make your own decisions. I think that's the most important part is don't just listen, don't just hear something and then, oh, that's what I need to do. It's like actually process and think about what they're telling you and make that decision yourself.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Don't give somebody all the answers. Let them find their way. Right. And I feel like that's one of the most important things is for us to find our own way and not just be handed the keys to a car and not have a license and just say, hey, go forth and drive. So I really appreciated that perspective. So Curtis has a great story for everybody that's listening right now. So you're going to want to check this episode out. It was fun talking with him, getting his point of view. And Tanya and I broke out into some great conversations there. So this can be a good one.
Yeah, he's very passionate and you guys are going to tell him get fired up several times on topics. So yeah, go ahead
100%.
and listen. We're excited to have you hear it. And yeah, make sure you share it with somebody who it would be great for too, who would get a lot out of it, a lot out of it.
All right. Hey, let's tune in to today's episode.
This is Brandon Turner, and you are listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavagioni.
And I'm your co-host, the Money Life Coach, Tanya Schultz. And today's guest is Curtis May from the Practical Wealth Show podcast. Welcome, Curtis, to the Average Joe Finances.
I would say not your average Joe, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have
Tell you
you,
both things
Curtis.
I know. I was
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah. No, we're definitely excited to have you. I know getting you on this show over the last couple of weeks has proved to be a challenge because life happens and things get in the way, but we finally got you here, so we're not letting you go. But glad to have you here. And, with that said, now that we have you here, we want to know more about you. So if you could you share a little bit about yourself, tell us your story, and just tell us who is Curtis May?
Curtis May is a brother, a husband, and a father of three daughters. So I'm a girl dad.
Glad to whoop whoop.
All right, there you go. And hopefully I'll keep them successful and they can take care of me later. But yeah, I'm in the financial space. I'm a ex uh basketball player. I played basketball in college, and then I realized the NBA was not looking for 5'11" shooting guards with a mediocre handle. And somebody showed me a check for $400 and said, this is what I made for hours worth of work. I said, doing what? Because with my basketball ego, if this knucklehead could do it, I could do it. And I was already looking for things to do because I was a business major. I was at Winston-Salem State. So I was 5 or 6 years before Stephen A., if that helps put perspective, where is a HBCU down in North Carolina. And I was barely on. I transferred from this school in Massachusetts down here. I realized, okay, I'm really a walk-on. And when I got here down here to this HBCU, everybody could run as fast as me and jump as high as me. So it was like Superman going back to Krypton with the red sun. So all of a sudden, I'm not unique. But one of the things I was blessed with, I was a business major, and I'd heard from the time I was 7, boy, you'll never making money work for somebody else. So I never, my grandparents had a supermarket growing up, and we're in a tavern business. So we always employed other people. My grandfather employed other people. So I never got that, oh, you need to go get your education, get a good job. So I thought you major in business to go into business. So it didn't really occur to me to go work for somebody else. Now I have worked for somebody else because the way Jim Rohn says wages make you a living, profits make you a fortune. And I read this little book by Robert Allen back in the day. It was called Creating Wealth. And he says that, and this is how I view the job. I said a job is a temporary inconvenience that basically finances your apprenticeship so you can get good at whatever the thing is you're trying to do. So when I've worked for people, I think the longest I've ever worked for somebody in my career was like 13 months. And by month 6 or 7, I would figure out why I hated it and why I need to do my own thing. So that's the story. So I've been doing that. And then I had an epiphany. I started out like a Dave Ramsey on steroids, buy term investor difference, max out your 401k, all that stuff, all the typical financial stuff. And then I read a little purple book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that really changed my paradigm. I didn't know what to do with it all yet, but I realized what I was teaching and what actually people with money did was different. And then being the nerd that I am, I got to go in. So I don't just read the book. I read the bibliography of what the author's reading. And what do you do? Why do these crashes occur? How do you know? And I just started reading Creature from Jekyll Island, economics in one lesson. I just became an Austrian economics nerd, just all that stuff. And so that kind of brings me forward to where I am today, whereas I've just learned to apply holistic planning and working with people. But it was a journey of screw ups and all that kind of stuff. But it's been fun.
Curtis, just your story right there, the way you're describing everything, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun conversation because it's funny because the way that you talk about how you started off like down the Dave Ramsey road and then you read the Purple Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
I was like the same way. So when I started my own personal financial journey, like I followed Dave Ramsey's baby steps and I said, okay, I got to do this to get out of debt. And then when I got out of debt, I was like, okay, there's got to be something else. I was like, and I was looking into real estate. I wanted to start investing in real estate. And then my buddy said, hey, man, you got to read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I was like, okay. So I read the book and I'm like, oh, this makes sense. It just changed my thought process.
That's
and
what it does.
Yeah,
that people get mad because it's not very tactical because people want to know what should I do. I was talking to a client this morning. I said, Liz, it's not about doing, it's about being, right? It's be, then do, then have, right? And so
absolutely,
investing is not about buying something, it's about becoming something. So you got to ask yourself, what is it that I want to become? And I tell people, that's not my job. That's your job. You got to figure out what you want to become.
Yeah.
And but see, that's too much like work, right? So most people don't want to become, they just want to, hey, let the fund manager, which means they will let HR be their financial planner, but my fund manager does this, and you're hoping somebody 1,000 miles away is smart, and you'll end up with a lot of money. And that's
So Curtis, with all that, and I love your perspective there with how you're putting this together. And that's actually what I'm going to ask you. Like when you started off, like following like Dave Ramsey method, and then you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so you saw Robert Kiyosaki's strategy and how he likes to do things. Where did you find that middle ground to what you felt was the right thing to do?
I didn't. So
okay, that's fair.
I not initially. First I was like deer in headlights. I didn't really know what to do for years, and then I actually was out of the industry for about 18 months because I was not liking what I was doing. I could have gotten like work at back in the day Smith Barney or Edward Jones but I didn't. I lost my religion, so to speak, that mutual funds were the end all be all. I
Sure.
really couldn't do that because I didn't feel good about that, but I didn't really have all of the pieces together yet to make a living. And I settled more on the insurance side of the game because I like certainty, right? To me, there's an economic value in certainty, and I found that as a foundation. But it took me a minute to piece it together. And so that was the thing because there were so many half truths. I just had to figure them out. So people, for example, people say, save. My daughter gets these little, when she was working at Whole Foods and CVS, she was, I don't know, 17, 18, 19, and she'll get these packets in the mail, say, save for your retirement in a 401k. But are mutual funds savings vehicles? Right? They're not. They're investing. There's a difference between saving and investing. So it's the languaging. And so there's a lot of half truths out there. And then now I'm like the word police. That's not completely accurate. And that's the thing. But you got to discover that. And then you got to work, especially with what I do, to get in a room with people that kind of are more holistic and less product centric, but more of here's how you put together a plan that works no matter what. And it's taken me about 10, 15 years to put that together, coming out of a buy term investor difference, max out your 401k, all that I call the accumulation theory, buy and hold, and your dollar cost average, modern portfolio theory is all based on hope. But if you study institutions, they don't do that. That's not how they handle money. They focus on velocity. They focus on cash flow, leverage, risk management. Consumerism teaches you to rent term insurance, but banks buy whole life like it's going out of style. So if what if you could do what they do, which you can, and it's safer and you have more control. So I've just learned that, and I just try to share with that and give them principles, because principles work no matter who does them. Ray Dalio says all successful people operate by principles. And otherwise, if we didn't have principles, or Gary Guns called investor DNA, what's your buy box, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have that, you're looking at everything for the first time. But now you come stuff and come at you. So I've seen this play before. Here's this. So anyway, that kind of stuff. I try to look at, for example, people are in their feelings about the last election as we do this, the last election. I says, it doesn't matter who's in office. What are you going to do? Because you can't control the economy at large, but you can control your personal economy, which is your production and consumption as a family or a business economy, or it doesn't matter, right?
You got to be able to adapt.
You got to be able to adapt. So you got to look at it. So this is where it's the second book. So I try to get people to really get these Rich Dad books. Is if you look at the cash flow quadrant. I just did this morning. I do a weekly coaching thing for our clients. And so I said, listen, so if you look at the right side of quadrant, employee, self-employed, ES, and the right side is business owner, investor. So if you look at, for example, the current administration, until the new administration takes over, they all live in the E quadrant. Bureaucrats never sign the front of the check. So what is their philosophy? So what can I expect? Because I already know how they think, right? And so now this person was a government employee. Oh, they're going to cut my job. They're going to, okay, but they're on the BI quadrant, BI sides. All right, you got a side business, you've got a whatever. So you've got to learn. People say, I'm gonna cut corporate, he's gonna give tax breaks for corporations. Here's the answer. Get a damn corporation.
It's then figure it out and adjust. But like you're saying, I like your approach, because I talk about a lot of this in my coaching too, is changing your approach from being reactive, like reacting to whatever, and being more proactive and having a plan. For me, it's like budgeting and going into each month with a plan, and not just looking at it after the fact and being like, oh, I overspent and I don't have cash flow. So the cash flow thing and the proactive versus reactive, can you talk about that a little bit more, like your philosophy around that?
So I think that I got this from Byron Goldie. You want to be responsive, right? You want to raise, for example, responsible kids. So responsible, if you break it apart, it means you need to be able to respond with ability. Okay. And so we have to teach our kids to be responsible. So I want you, instead of reacting, I got to go to my safe room and they said mean things to me, how do I respond to that? So I look at that in finance and business. Okay, here's the environment. How do I have the ability? That's why you have to work on your number one asset, mindset, skill set, network, so that you have the ability to respond. So that's the first part. And then we call it with the cash flow part. So I don't really like budgeting. Budgeting to me is like driving your car looking through the forward, but you're looking through the rearview mirror. So to your point, right? So we do something called cash flow mapping. We call it tell your money where to go instead of asking where it went. So when money hits your personal economy, it's like really every time your money hits your account, there's decisions that need to be made right there. That's where the game is won and lost, at cash flow management, right? Because if I look at clients and if you look at people individually and they have bad credit, no savings, and consumer debt. Those are symptoms. of bad cash flow, no structure or of cash flow management. Because if you paid yourself first, which is hard to do because the whole everything is designed for you. When you get paid, it goes into your checking account, which is a spending account. And then what do? You spend it. And so we look at what's his name, Profit First, Mike McCallowitz, he says,
McCallowitz,
listen,
yeah.
if you leave it all in your operating account, the business will eat up all the money that you'll give it. If you leave it there, you're going to spend it, right? So I actually teach that. That's the first thing we do with our clients is we teach them a system called Cashflow Control. We use actually a fintech, an online bank, and a fintech app that will allow us to partner with them. We meet with them every quarter. We call them calibration meetings. But now we make it because right now spending is easy. It's unconscious, right? And so what I teach people to do is you've got to make and saving is conscious. We teach people to flip the script. So we create a reservoir account. We make spending conscious, right? So your money goes to a reservoir account. You figure out, okay, what is your life cost? And we only send to the operating account what needs to be there. And then your money piles up by default. And then as we're money, we every quarter is okay, you got $5,000, you got 20 grand. What do you want to do? We call them building cash flow engines. Now you've got capital. The decisions that you want to make is what would you like to do? What can you buy or build that will generate cash flow? And so that you can make more money, so you can save more money. So we want to get people in a pattern of cash, buy an asset, make more cash. So you can save more, so you can buy more assets. And now you're in what Laura Langmeyer calls a wealth cycle.
Yeah, no, I like that, Curtis. And I like how you're talking about like the being conscious versus being unconscious spending. So like when you're saving money, that is you're actively being conscious about what you're doing with your money. Um, I have a mixture of both because I do sinking funds, right? So every time I get money that comes in, it gets split into all these different accounts. So I know where it's going, and one goes into an investment account, one goes into a vacation fund. Some money over here goes into, hey, here's all the money to pay bills. Here's the money to pay to do groceries and all that good stuff. Oh, we got another guest here on the show.
I see. Hey.
Oh, for those watching, Tanya's cat just jumped up. So saying, hey, for
Okay.
those that are listening to the podcast, you can't see that. But anyway, yeah. So I have these different sinking funds, and that's where it's a way to consciously move my money around, I guess. I don't know, but
That's been an intention. Like you
yeah,
switched your intention and your psychology around saving to be able to do that. Like it took a conscious shift in how you
but it makes me wonder if by doing that, I'm removing myself from making important decisions and I want to take another look at that. I want to take a step back, just talking about the conscious and
Just call
unconscious
me offline.
part
I
of
think
that.
that's good though, because I think that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have see the challenge is I find is that people put money in silos, right? They little silos that they can't touch. So 401k is a
right.
silo, 529 plan is a silo. And the problem is you have a bunch of uncoordinated financial actions. And since you have your money tied up, so if people way overfund their, let's say they're employed, they overfund their 401k, and so they'll have 200,000 in 401k, but they don't have 5,000 liquid. So now when you want to buy a car, what do you got to do? You've got to go get a car loan. You've got to buy stuff because you have no liquidity. Because see, even
Yeah,
when you say, I'm going to say, this is the problem with Dave's advice. He's good at getting people what I call to zero. You owe nothing, you have nothing, but you don't owe anything. But
right.
then when you say, well, save it, you pay cash. In order to pay cash, you got to save cash, right? And then you have to liquidate it back. So saving is really just delayed spending. But what you got to get, so this is where in personal finance, they don't teach opportunity cost, right? So one of the things that we teach is that you finance everything you buy, right? So if you save up 10,000 and you spend it, okay, you don't have debt, but what don't you have also? The $10,000. So now you got to go
Yeah,
back to work and save it back up. But you're giving up interest you could be earning. And so you got to see the other side. And so opportunity costs. So let's say if you had a business and let's say or a property or some other asset, and then you can get, let's say you could get 7% on that thing, right? So at 7%, if you use the rule of 72, that means your money will double every roughly 10 years. Okay. So if you had $10,000 and you transferred it to somebody else, that doesn't mean it stopped making money. It just stopped making money for you. So
Mhm.
in 10
Yeah.
years, your 10 is worth 20, your 20 is worth 40, your 40 is worth 80. And you're not seeing any of that because you killed the goose that lays the golden eggs. You're not earning any
Yeah.
money on the money. And so that's the other side. There's a book, and there's a book called The Law by Friedrich Bastiat. And then it's repeated again in Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. It's called The Seen and the Unseen. And so what we do is we focus on the seen. Okay, I pay cash. Oh, I raise, just go political for a second. Oh, I'm raising minimum wage. So you see the scene, you take the photo ops, but you don't see the unseen of the policy, of the results of that policy. Because
Right.
unemployment causes higher wage costs, causes higher unemployment. So the intention is good, but the actual results, which is not an opinion, this is economic fact, causes higher unemployment. Anytime you have wage and price control, right? And then, but you do the same thing with your money, then every decision, every car you buy, every big ticket item is costing you money. So you have to look at the opportunity cost at interest. A tax you paid that you didn't have to pay, that's a transfer from your asset column to the Treasury Department. So I'm
Mm.
not saying rent on the seizure with the seizures. I'm not saying not pay taxes. I teach infinite banking, so I save where I can use my money and still have it make money. So I'll collateralize the cash values on my insurance. I'll pay the tax. I will pay my plan at interest, and my money keeps growing uninterrupted, but I've also satisfied my obligation. But now
Right.
my money always moves forward. And now
It's
I've
it's about
kind of
having a tax shelter too, right? And
not
kind
that
of
strategy
like
is
your
not really
insurance
about that.
policy or
Yeah,
real
it's not a
estate.
tax thing. No, the
Okay.
insurance company predates the IRS by 100 years. So it's
Sure. Yeah.
not arbitrage or all this BS that you hear on TikTok about infinite banking and permanent insurance. I can't stand it because you can't get your financial plan from 30-second TikTok videos that are
Definitely
giving
not.
you half truths.
They might hook you in to go watch the longer video,
Yeah,
and
but they
that's
hook
the
you
point of
in
that.
with people that don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
problem.
true. That's
Okay.
fair.
Nelson Nash is the author of the book. So I'll just give it because I don't have an original thought. The book is 85-page book, but it's the text for a 10-hour course. So Nelson used to teach a 2-day, 10-hour course on this strategy. So I don't even let people work with me if they don't read the book. God said, look, it's your money. It encourages money. Can't be more
Yeah.
important to me. If you can't read it's barely a book. It's got pictures and charts. It's 85 pages. And book.
I like
So
pictures. I
I'm
like
Coach
pictures in my
Curtis. And
books.
sometimes I said, y'all about to meet. If you say something crazy, you're gonna meet Coach Curtis, the financial coach. And Coach is not always a nice person because I'm gonna tell you about yourself. Okay.
You got to
Because
say the
if I'm
hard
the coach,
things.
you give me permission to put my foot up your behind, with love. Okay, out of love. But I played basketball, so I've been
Sure.
cursed out by the best of them. I've been cursed out by 2 Hall of Famers.
Look,
So
20 years in the Navy, you're not going to offend me. But
right, exactly.
I want to get Tanya's thoughts on this, right? Because I'm curious, like when it comes to the different ways to, like what you were talking about, Curtis, with financing instead of buying out. I'm big on that too. I like to leverage my debt, right? I think and then be able to use that $10,000 towards something else. But I want to get like Tanya, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know sometimes you think a little bit more towards, hey, try to stay out of debt. So I want to see like what your thoughts
Yeah,
are.
I think you have to educate yourself, like Curtis is saying.
Yeah.
Like for most people, their habits and their psychology around money is how they grew up with money, which most people grew up in lack and scarcity. Most people are just spending unconsciously using credit cards and don't know how to, and have so much debt. I feel like this is
Yeah.
a phase, like until you can get your habits and control the person in the mirror and how you're operating around money, then you can get to the next level. But I feel like a lot of misinformation, or what's hard for people is, I know the statistics around people not paying off their credit card every month, but people are like, oh, you just put everything on there and then pay it off. That actually mostly doesn't happen because people are
Right, exactly.
cash
Then the
flow.
credit card
So I feel
companies
like
wouldn't make any money.
there's phases, but for me, I focus on a lot of people like trying to minimize their debt at first because they don't have enough cash flow, or they have cash flow, but it's all going towards debt. So I feel it's a habit change thing that takes over time, and then they can decide, should I still be taking on some debt? Like for me, I
Sure.
have a little bit of debt on my new car right now because I'm getting so I can be able to buy a property. But I won't go out and tell the average person to do that because the majority of people don't know how to leverage it correctly.
Her hand is like, borrow money to make money. Don't borrow money for stuff, or Rich Dad calls doodads, because you're basically now hustling. We call it hustling back, or you're working for the bank because the debt is a wealth transfer. And now, because what I say, so I have what I call the four pillars of financial freedom: from debt to others. But what I say, that I don't mean get out of debt. You should be the bank, so that if you owned your own bank, banking is a concept of just creating a pool of capital that you control that can move at cost to meet some needs you have. So if you owned your own bank, would you bank at Wells Fargo? No, but you have to save, because there's another thing which you just brought up. They'll say, I want to start saving, but I have to pay off my debt first. Anybody ever tell you that? And
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake, because you're emphasizing. So everything that's on your go back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. So you got to go. That's why I say financial literacy is accounting, right? So you have to look at the story. So your liability, everything is a liability. What's a liability? Something that takes money out of your pocket, and assets puts money in your pocket, right? But if you look at the other side of the balance sheet, your liabilities are the bank's assets, right? Your credit card expense is their income, right? So you have to look at that. And so when you're saying like, I gotta get out of debt, all you're saying is their asset column is more important than yours, right? So what I'll look at is I'll say, you need to, so it's right, and I'm old school, it's right out of Richest Man in Babylon, right? 10, 20, 70, 10% to savings. You got to pay yourself first. Part of all your earnings is yours to keep. That's a principle, right? 20% to debt elimination. So you got to look at your debt. And I had a woman, we went over her stuff. This is a couple of weeks ago. And I always go over Cashflow, and she, oh, I want you to save $500 a month. I don't know if I can. So I went into her debt. And I says, okay. I found her like $850 a month in 15 minutes, just by the way she structured her debt. She's paying like extra $300 on her mortgage. She was paying an extra $100 on her car payment, because that's why, because that's what her dad told her to do. But you didn't have $1,500 in savings. Why would you not put money in the bank? Because if you don't have any money, first time you have an emergency, what do you have to do? Back out the plastics. You're right back where you start out from. So you want to save money and get out of debt at the same time, but you need to. We have a program called Debt Free for Life, right? So I'm going to show you how to do both. But when you're done, I want you out of credit card debt. And the way I'll do it, it'll take you an extra 6 months, but we'll get rid of your 20,000 or whatever credit card debt, and then you'll have 15, 20, 25,000 cash when the debt is gone. So now you won't go into bad debt, non-preferred debt. And so there's constructive debt and there's destructive debt. But I think you have to learn the fundamentals. Kiyosaki would say, I'm $10 billion in debt, but he's using the debt to buy apartment buildings, because rich people use debt as money, right? Because the first lesson, because people say, oh, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I'll say, what's the first lesson? Pay yourself first? Nope, wrong book, right? And then I said, is rich people don't work for money. I'll say, what does that mean? Oh, money works for them. That's not what that means. It partially what it means. It means that there's three types of income in the country, right? Earned, passive, and portfolio. So they don't work for earned income, because if you go to school, get a job, you're working for the highest tax income, right? So that's financial literacy. People don't understand the financial physics because they're getting the advice from the institutions that make money. So anytime a financial institution is giving you advice, what we teach our clients is the 4 rules of financial institution that govern all financial advice. Okay, because they're for-profit institutions. Last time I checked, right? So what are the 4 rules? They want your money. They want it on a regular basis. They want to keep it as long as possible, and they want to give it back as slow as possible, if ever. So it's not good or bad. It just is. So you need institutions, but you've got to use the products so that they work for you, not to do what they want them done, because their goal is assets under management, right? So if you hear them, oh, we got $10 billion under management, that's money they're charging fees on. Their objective is not make you rich. Okay. Their goal is assets under management. And so if you think about this, Mike, if you had $1 million with XYZ advisor, and you say, hey, I'm great news. I just found this great apartment building and I need 200,000 for a down payment. Are they going to, and can you withdraw that from and move it over into my money market account or whatever? Are they going to be excited by that news?
Absolutely not.
Why is that?
I'm taking food off their dinner table.
Yeah, and they can't. There's no grid where they can make money off of that.
Yeah.
And so it's all right, but that's probably a good thing for you if you've done what? Become a good investor, become a real investor. So it
Yep.
goes back to investing is not risky. Only being an educator is risky. So I tell people, look, the first thing you invest in is in between your two ears, your mindset, your
100%.
skill set. Skills is what make money. Skills of solving other problems is where revenue is generated. If you look at Think and Grow Rich, organized planning and specialized knowledge. Those are the least favorite ones. They want to talk about the secrets and manifesting all this. It's about the curse, but all this stuff. Okay. And which is part of it, but it's organized planning, specialized knowledge where you can solve a problem for income,
Yeah.
because income is a result of creating money, creating value in the marketplace. And people say,
Yeah.
I don't make enough money. My daughter, I need a raise. All right. Are you worth the raise? She hates when I do that, but why aren't you on my side? I am on your side. I'm trying to show you how the world works.
It's so true. I deal with this with clients all the time. They're like, oh, I'm at my max of what I can make. I was like, what do you need to do to move up in that company, or what
Yes.
can you do? And it's people get so stuck in the tunnel vision that they just feel like, oh, I should just be making more money, like $100,000 in this. That's a $20 an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
people put in
Yes.
their head.
Like the skill set piece that you're speaking about, I don't know if it's like the laziness of a lot of the culture right now, or like what it is to people just think, oh, and then they blame it on the economy. But it's okay, what can you do? I had to move up when I was paying off my debt originally on my debt-free journey. I had to move up within my company. Like, how can I get more skills? What do I need to do to get that promotion? Like, same thing like you're thinking about. Like,
Yeah.
people just are like, I should just be getting paid
Just
what I'm
because
I think
you're
it's an
entitled to it.
entitlement mentality that we
Yes,
have
yes.
here. We have an entitlement mentality, and people think I've been here for a while, so I should get A, B, C, or D. And that's not
Right,
how
but
it
you're doing the
works.
same thing. You're not
Yeah,
creating new revenue, so it's no
exactly.
money to pay you. That people think, I told this, I got in an argument with this person that was running for lieutenant governor of Delaware one time. I was doing a workshop, and she goes, these big corporations, because she's looking, this is downtown Wilmington, all these high rise that banks own. And I said, employ most people that employ other people are small companies with less than 75 employees.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're passing these dumb rules, because you're going to give yourself a pat on the back, she said, when politicians pass these dumb rules, I said, public servants. I was like, whatever. Because now I'm riled up because she triggered me. She started talking about minimum wage. I said, look, y'all, do you think that money comes out of some magic direct deposit machine out the sky? And you've not experienced writing in front of the
What do you
check.
mean? It doesn't come
It
from their
does, yeah.
kitchen?
No, I hate to tell you. So, and so I said, you've not experienced. So I come from that world where it's like I'm looking at it's payday is Friday, and I'm all right. We gotta have a good. This is when I was in the bar business where I was really in control of that stuff. Where I gotta have because I'm looking at some people I paid on cash, some people paid with check, and I'm looking at the accounts, the cash, and I was like, I gotta have a good Friday so I can make payroll Saturday morning. And so people just expect that their check is going to be there, it's going to cash, and they don't understand the pressure every week that entrepreneurs have to do that, where sometimes you don't eat because you got to make sure your people get paid. So they have no idea of that. What's Russell Brunson calls it? He says you always feel like you're hunted by a wolf you can't see. And so you have that low level pressure that just doesn't leave you. And so you really, if you talk to somebody that with a job, they have no idea what you're talking about. Talk to them in Greek. And that's why you have to get around, listen to shows like this or get around groups, because it's the loneliest business and nobody knows what you talk about unless they're in it. And I grew up in it and I still struggle with that. I still have people, I get in with my insurance company and say, listen, why is this thing taking 3 months? I've got people I got to pay every week. If y'all got paid when I get paid, I think a whole lot of stuff will get done faster. So I always have this running battle. And since I'm one of the top producers, I get the ear of the president or whatever. But I'm thankful, but it's like, all right, we have to fix some stuff up in here.
Yeah,
But I'm
100%.
out here in the street, living without a net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks for
Curtis.
letting me
All
get
right.
off there my chest.
So we got to go ahead and push this to the final round. It's where we're going to ask you the same 4 questions we ask everybody that comes on the show. Gives us a good idea of where your head's at when you're put under a little bit of pressure.
I'm
But
angry. No,
I
I'm
think
kidding.
I think we've got where you're at. I think this is going to be good. So I'll let Tanya go ahead and kick this off.
Sure. What's the biggest mistake that you've ever made when it comes to your finances or business life?
Biggest. Let's see. How long do we have? No, the getting I'm looking for a real estate deal. I got bad money and really expensive money and didn't really count the cost. So it was just a nightmare from after about the first month, just managing the finances, not having the revenue. And so I know good debt, bad debt very well. And I'll give you a the other side of that is investing, but I didn't really know how the money was made. It was alternative investment, and I didn't really, I was listening to people I trusted or people that a good presentation, but I didn't really understand where the value was created. And so that's a mistake. So now that's where my 3 rules of investing comes from. Maybe I'll put it in later.
Okay, that's fair. This question, so you'll see these kind of tie into each other, Curtis. And what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started out?
I wish I'd have known that whole life insurance wasn't the devil. So I wish I'd have learned that I was really in the marketing business, right? So Dan Kennedy says is you have to be a marketer of the thing, not a doer of the thing. So I would chase people around rather than attracting people to me that wanted what I had to offer. I didn't learn that, get good at that till about 10 years ago. I've been doing this 40. So
That's
yeah,
huge. Yeah.
yeah,
Marketing and sales, like marketing and
yeah. And it's marketing, attracting people to you, and selling, helping people so selling is helping people make a future decision that is good for them. It's not talking people into stuff. But you got to get good at both. Most people in business don't make the money they want to make because they suck at both of those.
yeah. No, or they're like afraid of marketing, afraid of sales. So true. Do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that's just getting started investing or figuring out their finances? What do they do?
Yes. So one, remember, investing is not about buying something, it's about becoming. So my 3 rules of investing are invest in what you know, or invest in knowing, invest in what you can control, meaning can you influence the outcome? Does it cash flow? Can you affect it? And my 3rd rule is don't chase returns. So what y'all think is investing, I call gambling. So put it in the market, hope the market goes up. You can't control that. That's not an investment. That's speculating. Okay. So understand the difference between investing and speculating. What was the second part? I got off. It was another part I was going to
Control.
control. No, the second part of your question, Tony.
Oh, tips and tricks to someone who could just get started today.
Oh,
So
yeah. So one is understand the 3 rules. 2 is start with controlling cash flow. And because the game is won and lost on the consumer side, once money hit your account, and having a structured process to make sure that you're paying yourself first and not last. And then for business owners, the same thing is having a structure when money hits your business economy. You need to tell it where to go, because once you're looking at it, the numbers tell a story. Like Kiyosaki says, financial is accounting. So numbers tell a story. So I wish I'd have paid more attention to that early on, because I hate accounting. I didn't think this is boring. And my dad was like, listen, you need to understand accounting. I said, well, don't you have accounting for that? I says, yes, but you need to know that so you can make sure they're not stealing from you. And this was my junior year of high school. He told me this.
Hey,
Didn't kick in
that's great advice.
It didn't
At that
kick
young
in
of an
until about
age.
15 years later.
But you held on to it, right?
Yes, I remember all that stuff. Yeah, never work for somebody else. And
Great advice you got as a young man.
Yeah,
So
it really
I wish
was.
I had something similar, but I did not get that kind of advice. So, all right, all good. Hey, Curtis, so this is the final question of the final round. And I will preface this with, besides your own, do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast, or both?
Yes. One of my I guess just the old standby. One of my favorite business books I always refer back to is The Richest Man in Babylon.
I love that book. Matter of
And
fact, look right here. It's the
yeah,
first
there you
book
go.
on my
Right.
shelf right there.
People don't, and so what happens is they don't really read. So the challenge is because I've re-recorded it in English because it's written in like King James prose,
Yeah.
but they don't really break it down. It's so many gems in that book on
Mhm.
just how to be a good steward of your resources. Don't invest, don't ask for money, don't give your money to somebody that's not qualified to do it. Don't protect your money from law. If you just fall, all I do really is teach chapter 2. Okay, the 7 cures for a lean purse. That's really my message. I tell you another one I like. Let me see. This is a real bookshelf. What is my favorite book? I read 2 books a month, so that's a big ask. So let's say marketing. My favorite marketing book is getting all you can out of everything you got by Jay Abraham. I'm a big Jay Abraham fan.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So we'll stop there. I like the Rich Dad, basically the first 4 Rich Dad books. The Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cashflow Quadrant. My favorite is Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. And bless you. I see she burst over out.
Sorry.
And Who Took My Money is because it really gets into what is the velocity of money, because you got to learn velocity. So those are like foundational. If you will learn the basics, 7 cures for a lean purse, and then now you can, once you've got that foundation, you can build on that.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Hey, real quick before we finish the final round, because you brought up all the Robert Kiyosaki books. Have you ever played the cash flow game?
I play it all the time. Well, not
Me
all the
too. I love
time.
it.
I'm trying
I love
to.
it.
What I'm trying to do is organize it so where, like, I have a 13-year-old, so I want to turn her and her 4 or 5 little friends. We'll play like every Friday, every other Friday, and I want to build a little group of female capitalists, right? Because you got to offset all of the Marxist nonsense they learned in public school.
Mhm.
And how can you do that? You learn by game. You might start with Monopoly, but I'll play
Yeah.
Cash Flow. I've got Laurel Langmeyer's
They
game.
got the kids version too. I play that with my
Yeah,
kids.
she's 13. They're smart enough. They can play the other
Yeah.
version.
No, they could play. Yeah, but even the kids version it's pretty legit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
it
have
hits
to
the
get
point.
them thinking. And so people learn by games, and you fill out the financial statements, and you learn to what's the difference between an asset and liability. And or if I'm listening to this, if I'm guys, I would get a group of friends together and play once a month, twice a month, order some pizza and just make it a thing, because the game imprints on you, right? When you start filling out the financial statements, you're like, and then in real life, you're like, wait, that's a doodad. This is money I could be investing. And you start thinking about your financial statements for real.
Yeah.
When you play the game, it's powerful. So if you play it one time, it'll print on your mind for at least 2 or 3 weeks, where you'll think about all of the decisions that you make. And then if it takes a long time to get out the game, it's because you think wrong. You think like you think in real life, where you don't think like a capitalist or a rich person.
100%.
So good.
Love it.
That's huge. Something everyone needs to check out.
I'm looking for my royalty, Robert. I know.
Right. So where can people find more information about you, your website, social media? Let us know where you can find you.
Yeah.
And where can we listen to your podcast?
So you can everywhere, but you go to iTunes. We have a podcast website, but go to iTunes or Spotify or Audible, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find. And the show is called The Practical Wealth Show. If you search YouTube, you can search at Curtis May, the @sign Curtis May, or just search for The Practical Wealth Show. Subscribe, listen, and share if you want more of what I call the madness that is Curtis. So you can say, all right, I don't know about this guy, but you should listen to some more. And because my nickname is a contrarian, so I'm a bit of a contrarian. So if you don't want to think and you just want to put your head in the sand and just max out 401ks and put money in mutual funds, there's nothing wrong with that. But you shouldn't call me, because I don't have the energy to try to convince you there might be another way. I just say listen to my show for about 10 or 15 episodes, and I'll show you wealth outside of Wall Street, which is the theme of the show, and then how to be the bank and how to manage your personal economy. You can also go to my website, which is, what is it? My website, practicalwealth.net, www.practicalwealth.net, or you can go to, if you search curtismay.net or com, it'll come up. All roads lead back to my website. Got them. So if you search me, it'll Curtis Mayfield may pop up, who's the singer, but you keep going, I eventually do pop up on the list. And I have a report. I'm big on education. So I have a report called The Value of Liquidity. Liquidity is like my fourth principle, 6 or 12 months of liquidity of the 5 principles. And if you like that report, if you guys will text Be the Bank, all one word, all caps to 55444, and then we'll get that report out to you. We also have a special gift as we record this. I'll get it to y'all to put in your show news Monday. I have a special gift. We'll give you our 20-question financial assessment to see where you are, and it'll give you a link to that and a follow-up report to let you know where you stand financially. People like assessments, so we try to give people assessments to get people. My goal is to teach people to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
Love that. Awesome, Curtis. Hey, this was great having you on and being able to pick your brain and hear your thought process, and just, it gets the creative juices flowing, right? Especially when we talk about things that Tanya and I both love to talk about, and that's, financial education, financial literacy. I think it's so important. Actually, one of the things you finished off with is you want to teach people how to think, right? And I think that's phenomenal, because in the end, they're the ones that got to make the decision, right?
It's your money.
So,
I tell you, it's not
absolutely.
Curtis. It's because when you buy products, the product that you buy should be a result of your knowledge, not a substitute for it.
100%. 100%. Yeah, definitely educate yourself, and you got to pay for that, right? You got to invest up here. But at the same time, you don't need to buy something that's going to do it for you. You need to think
Because there's no
process through.
financial product that's made that will take you to glory. Like that's why you have to have coordinated game plan. That there are financial products that have a purpose, but ultimately you are your number one investment advisor. You are your number one asset, and you're the one that's going to create wealth, not some fund manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not some wealth manager. If you look at what's that book? This is the one I like, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires by Dennis Kimbro. But there's a similar book called The Millionaire Next Door.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So in that book, he asked him,
By Gary Keller?
how much? Yeah, but how much responsibility do you credit he calls it stockbroker, but that would be wealth manager today's terminology. Do you credit for you being a millionaire? Answer is, survey said 11%. So most of them built a business, find an industry they like, they bought real estate. And so success leaves clues, but it's disguised as work, but that's how they make it.
Yep. 100%. 100%. That's a great note to finish things off, Curtis. I really appreciate it. Again, this was great. Great interview. Phenomenal to have you on. Again, I know it took a while to get you here. We had to reschedule a couple times, but good things come to those who wait. So for the audience, they get to enjoy this treat today when they're listening. So Curtis, again, thank you so much for taking the time to join Tanya and I and have this conversation.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I had to perform. I messed up. I got to get back on here and bring it.
Absolutely. And hey, for the listeners right now, go check out his podcast. We got all of his info. It's gonna be in the show notes. Go check it out. Give him a follow, right? And help him grow his show, because when you're putting out great information like this and you're putting out financial literacy, it is important to prop those up, right? Because I think the more people you can impact, again, for Tanya and I know if we just impact one person, we feel like we really made a difference in the world. I really appreciate what you do. And I also want to say thank you to every single one of the listeners right now listening to this show. Thank you so much for joining Tanya and I and our special guest, Curtis May, on the Average Joe Finances podcast today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thanks, Curtis. And make sure you go leave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you took away and what you liked for today's podcast. And make sure you share this with us, with someone as well.
Awesome. Hey, aloha from Hawaii.
And bye from Lake Tahoe.
And have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.